Fleur Hassan-Nahoum graduated in 1997 from King's College London. She received a degree in law. At that time, she became the campaign director of the World Jewish Relief. In 2001, she immigrated to Israel and served as the senior associate to the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. She is the CEO of Tikva Children's Home, an orphan and poverty relief organization which supports homeless, abandoned, and abused children from the former Soviet Union. She is also the CEO of an international strategic communications firm, Message Experts. In 2014, Hassan-Nahoum joined the Yerushalmi Party. In 2016, she joined the Jerusalem City Council. She served as the chairman of the Yerushalmi Party until January of 2018. In 2018, she became the deputy mayor of Jerusalem in charge of foreign relations, including philanthropy, international economic development, business relations, and diaspora affairs. In 2020, Hassan-Nahoum became one of the founding members of the UAE Business Council, which was established following the famous Abraham Accords peace treaty between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain. Today, I got the privilege to talk to Fleur. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Finally, I sat down. We had a nice, amusing interview. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Comment down below anyone else you want me to interview, and hopefully I'll see you next time.
So first, thank you for being here. I'm honored to get to interview. We've heard a lot about you from Brian, and finally we got to meet you, and here we are. So let's start off by tell me about yourself. Like, just give me a short, who are you?
Oh my God, what to say. So I am originally from Gibraltar, which is a British protectorate in southern Spain. So I am British as well as Israeli, but I'm also Sephardi, Spanish, Moroccan. And so that's my heritage. That's where I grew up. I made aliyah 21 years ago almost. And I got involved in politics about 8 years ago. And today I serve as Deputy Mayor for Jerusalem in charge of foreign affairs, economic development, and tourism.
Well, we'll for sure talk about all three of those. But I also saw that you're in charge of, or you're a founding member of the UAE Israel Business Council. What exactly goes on there?
So I'm the co-founder of two organizations. One of them we created just before the Abraham Accords and one of them after. The UAE Israel Business Council is basically the first platform to connect businesses in the UAE and Israel. We created it was the times of Corona when the peace accords were signed, and we created a digital platform so businesses could start talking straight away. That has grown to a community of about 5,000 people. We're very active in doing networking events, all sorts of peer-to-peer meetings, and we're a resource. We're a resource for many, many businesses, both from there and from here, and it's something that we created along with our Emirati business partner friends. And then straight after the Abraham Accords, because I'm a big believer in women's leadership, and certainly in women's leadership in the Abraham Accords, in order to make sure that the peace is sustainable and is warm, I created the Gulf Israel Women's Forum, which brings together leaders, female leaders from the entire Middle East. And there we have even countries that are not yet in the Abraham Accords, like Saudi Arabia, and countries that never were, like Egypt, who now, of course, want to be part of this movement of normalization between the Arab world and Israel.
Wow, that is really interesting and goes way beyond politics. That goes into the form of both business, which I absolutely love, and peace and women empowerment.
Well, I think it's complementary because I think that to be a politician is to be able to lead and to create and build bridges. I think that if a leader, if a politician does not do that, then there's a problem. And so I see it as part and parcel of my leadership work, and it's not typical, but I think it certainly should be. And a lot of politicians that I know do create nonprofit organizations and different organizations, or at least had a hand in creating. And I think it's an important thing. When you're a politician, when you claim to be a leader, you should have something to show for the fact that you're leading something.
Yeah. Okay. That is very important. So I know that our crowd, which is a big investment firm in Israel. It recently-ish got a permit to work with UAE businesses as UAE startups. Do you guys work with them as well?
We work with, there's a lot of Israeli startups that see the Gulf, especially the UAE and Dubai, as a place to be able to reach the whole east side of the globe. And of course, as you know, Israel is known for its very, very interesting innovation. And I think this is where we have a complementary skill set with the UAE. The UAE is an incredible hub of trade, of supply chain, of distribution. And I think that that's what the UAE can contribute to Israel's economy, and Israel's economy can contribute to the UAE all sorts of interesting innovation, especially in the challenges that we share, like food security, water security, and today, of course, cybersecurity. But more than that, I think, a lot of people thought, oh, Israel's going to bring all the innovation and the UAE is going to buy it. I think the UAE has a lot of innovation. We're not the only people who made the deserts bloom. And I think sometimes that's difficult for us to understand, but they really did. And there's things that they're way, way, way more advanced than us. For example, digital government, sustainable smart cities. And so I think there's just a lot that we can learn from each other and contribute to each other.
How many other countries do you think are going to join in the following year?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm very optimistic. I'm an optimistic person in general. I think that we have countries that are very interested, like eventually, I think Saudi Arabia, which is really the biggest country in the Middle East. I think that it's around the corner. I'm not sure, how long the corner is, but I think that it's down the road. And countries like Indonesia, it's the biggest Muslim country in the world. They're already very keen in under the radar normalization with us. Oman is another interesting, could be another interesting addition. And of course, Kuwait, Qatar, but Qatar is probably the hardest and Kuwait is probably the second hardest. But I think the main thing is that there was a paradigm shift and the dam opened. And once the dam opens, I think that a lot of people have FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And we've seen this with Egypt and Jordan, who we've had peace with for decades. But only now they want to do peer-to-peer and business-to-business, and they come to me all the time. And we see it in the numbers. Trade with Egypt and Jordan has doubled and tripled in the last 2 years. This is not a coincidence. This is because of the Abraham Accords. Something has changed. And I think that as a result, we can be very optimistic about what the future looks like in this region.
I had a sit down with one of the other activists that we met at the event that I met you at. And he said that we first have to focus in terms of peace within ourselves, where we first, an Israeli with an Israeli has to agree, and then peace has to work with the rest of the world. Yeah, but
if we're going to wait, I don't agree with that, because if we're going to wait for that, we're never going to have peace with anybody. The Jewish people are famous for infighting. We're famous with disagreeing. I think it's part of our strengths and it's part of our weaknesses. We disagree, therefore we make things better. We disagree, therefore we bring each other down. It's the two sides of the same coin. We can't wait. We had an opportunity. There was a window. We have to go forward. And we have to do as much as we can to bring prosperity to the entire region. And I think that lots of different types of peace will flow from what's available. I'm a big believer that when Hashem opens a door, when God opens a door, you walk through it. You don't wait until you've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's. I think that's not pragmatic. I think there's an opportunity. You walk through the door and you see what's available.
Okay. In terms of peace, do you think within Israel, the Palestinians, would the UAE and the external Arab countries be able to help?
Well, I think that it's a good thing for everybody. And I've been telling everybody for a while that I think it's a great thing for the Arabs in Israel, both the Arab Israelis and the Palestinians, because I think it's just given us permission to kind of like each other, do business together, call each other cousins again. And I think that's very important. That's the paradigm shift that I was talking about. And so I think that ultimately, just take tourism, for example. When we start having Gulf tourists in Jerusalem, a lot of the tourism industry is Arabs from the city. So I think it can be something which is a win-win for everybody. I know all the Arabs I'm speaking to, both Arab Israelis and Arabs from Jerusalem or Palestinians, they're all thrilled about the Abraham Accords. They won't say that out loud because the government is not allowing them to. Their government, their leadership, but they're all thrilled because a lot of them are already doing business in the Gulf. And now it's just made their lives easier.
It's really interesting to see that originally on the outside, because all this businesses that were happening between the Gulf and us, it was all under the radar. Now that it's open, it gives, along with that paradigm shift, it shows that peace within the Middle East is actually possible. And I think 2, 3, 4 years back, no one would have ever imagined that. It's a small part of hope that we can now
Absolutely.
grasp onto.
I think it's important. 100% agree with you. I think it's important to see what something could look like in order for you. If you don't see it, you can't be it, you know? And I think when you see what peace looks like, so when you see Israelis, religious Israelis and traditional Emiratis in Condoras, when you see them taking pictures and out together and eating together and breaking bread together, that's what people need to see to understand that it is possible. And that's why this is such a significant paradigm shift.
How many, well, I guess because of Corona, there probably haven't been that many tourists, but has there been an increase of tourists even through the Corona from the UAE?
We can't know. I mean, the skies have been closed. We've barely had we've had 200,000 tourists this year. It's nothing. At peak times, we had 5 million. So it's disastrous. But I'm hoping that this year, once we get over this wave of Omicron, when things open up now, every Emirati I know and every, a lot of people that I know from the Emirates, from Bahrain, they're dying to come. And for the ones who are more religious Muslims, for them, to pray up in Temple Mount, what they call Haram al-Sharif, is something very, very significant.
Yeah. As the deputy mayor and someone who is in charge of tourism, do you think that, because our cultures between Israel and the UAE is very different, do you think we should be teaching Israelis the difference in the culture and how to appropriately interact with the people from the UAE?
Well, I'm not sure that we can, because Israelis are difficult people to tell them what to do. But I think that people are learning through trial and error, and I think that a lot of tourists went to the UAE the first year, and a lot of business people did. I think the business people, the ones serious, fell through, and I think the more serious people are going now in terms of business. In terms of tourists, it'll take time. It's there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences culturally as well.
All right. Well, hopefully I'll get to go one day. Sounds very interesting.
You should.
Both as a businessman and as a tourist. I'd like to go twice.
Absolutely. You should go as many times as possible. There's direct flights now. It's 2.5 hours. It's nothing. You can go for the weekend.
Yeah, that is not bad.
Yeah.
So there's this one question that when we were still doing the podcast, we would ask every single one of our guests. Now, there's a textbook definition to what Zionism is, but I want your definition. What is your definition to Zionism?
Zionism is the self-determination of the Jewish people in our ancestral homeland. That's what Zionism is.
But do you have any personal way of defining it? So some people would define it in a way of like, it's my people, it's what I fight for. But yeah, there's the textbook. But do you have a little more than that?
Well, for me, Zionism is a lot more than that. That is the textbook, as you say, definition, which, it's not something to be underestimated, because people don't even know that that's the textbook definition.
Very true.
People, completely twist what Zionism is. I think that even the word Zionism has people attached to it now negative connotations, which is a real shame. To me, Zionism is the struggle of our people for a common future, for self-determination. But to me also, Zionism is many things. It's a feminist movement that gave women the voting rights before anybody or any organization or any government in the world did. To me, Zionism is, Jewish people coming together and with all our diversity towards a common cause and a common future. And to me, Zionism is the reason that I moved my family to live in Israel, and that I hope my children will appreciate and build their homes here, and create generations of happy and functional and contributing people to the country.
All right. So you mentioned that you made aliyah in, I think, 2001 or 21 years ago. Yeah, 2001. So that's around the second intifada. Why would you make aliyah then and not when it finished or a few years before? What made you make aliyah during the second intifada?
Well, my husband and I, when we met, we both wanted to make aliyah. We both wanted to come to Israel. We had a 2-year plan. We'll stay in England, we'll save a bit of money, and then we'll come. And when that time came, the second intifada blew up, and we looked at each other and we said, are we going to wait till things get better? Or we're just going to go there and be with our people at their difficult time? And we chose to come and be with our people. Our parents were very, very concerned, as you can imagine. They thought we were nuts. But I don't regret it for one single second.
Okay, so where did you get your connection from Zionism? Is it like the family, the community? Where did you get your connection?
Well, not particularly my father and my mother was the big Zionists. My community is in general Zionist, but they've become very ultra-Orthodox recently, the last 10, 20 years. And Zionism is not something that they've ever really encouraged amongst young people. I think I became a Zionist myself. I really did. I came here for the first time when I was 14 years old, fell in love with the country. I was so excited by the fact that Jewish people have returned after 2,000 years and created the miracle that is Israel. I started reading a lot of literature. Then I got involved with Bnei Akiva. Bnei Akiva brought me on an Israel tour for 6 weeks and made a Zionist out of me. And then, I carried on reading and coming to Israel, came every single summer, did a Hebrew University courses. And by the time I'd met my husband, I was definitely convinced that I wanted to raise my family here.
Wow. Okay. And how did you get into politics? Or is that you said your family was politics, but
well, my father was the first chief minister of Gibraltar, but I didn't really come here with a plan to get into politics. It was something that interested me, but I guess the way things happen, God opens a door. I had an opportunity to step up to the plate for my city. I was involved in helping a small political party I used to be a communications consultant at one point, so to help them with messaging for a campaign. And I just loved the idea of local politics because that's what really affects people's daily lives and helps people at every level. And I had the opportunity to run with them for City Hall. I got in eventually in 2016, and I just kept at it. And as long as people keep voting you back, then you're here.
Yeah. So when I was doing research, I found out that you're the CEO of Tikva Children's Home.
I was, yes.
Oh, you were? Okay. So they should update that on the Wikipedia.
Yeah, I was.
So,
how many things can a person do? I was between 2007 and 2011, 12. I was that, and I still have a very close connection with them. They're great friends of mine, and very much in touch with them and the work that they do. I still help them here in Jerusalem.
So yeah, what work do they do?
They really, this is probably one organization in the Jewish organization in the world that's actually saving lives. It's saves abandoned and abused Jewish children from the former Soviet Union by bringing them into children's homes, raising them, Israeli couples that go out there and raise them, and then at age 16, giving them the opportunity to come and make aliyah. So I was there for 5 years. And it was really a very satisfying time in my life, especially when you see where these children come from. You've literally saved them from a life on the street, from state orphanages, which are horrible, abusive places, from abusive parents and family members. And so, this is work that has really, made me have a very interesting worldview about what very unfortunate children have to go through, and our obligation to give them the best chance possible when they come from such unfortunate circumstances to have a better life.
And you bring them from there to Israel?
Yes,
you
most of them are given the opportunity to make aliyah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
We
amazing.
don't force aliyah on anybody,
No.
but many of them end up here. Yeah.
That's truly amazing.
Yeah.
So you've been in Israel for 21 years, as we've said. Give me like one of your best stories from being in Israel, not specifically as a politician or as just anything like that, just as Fleur. Give me one of your best stories.
As a politician?
No, just anything.
Oh, one of my best stories in
About Israel.
About Israel. I guess what I love about Israel is, and people can find this a little bit intrusive, is that everybody gets involved in your life, even if you don't know them, because everybody thinks that they can help you in some way, which I like. I like the fact that everybody gets involved to help, even though it's intrusive and sometimes rude. But I think one of my best stories, I was walking my son who was in a stroller and he was wearing a sweater. Somebody stops me on the street, a total stranger, goes, "Ma, sweater kvo?" Like, what, already you putting your kid in a sweater? It's like, it says everything about Israel. They care about your kid wearing a sweater, not wearing a sweater, but who the hell are you? But I like these kind of stories of the character of Israelis. And to me, it's very familiar because my mother's Moroccan and her personality is very kind of Israeli, even though she never lived here. So I kind of like that kind of, I love the fact that people care for you to the point that they suffocate you.
Yeah, right.
There's nothing very nice about that. There's also something very annoying about that. But if I have to choose, a society ignoring people or getting too involved, I'll always choose a society that gets involved. That's a very Jewish thing.
All right. Well, it was amazing interviewing you.
Thank you so much.
I'm sure we'll find more ways to work together.
Me.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Me too. Take care.
Cool. We'll talk. Bye.
Bye.